Like we discussed previously, Gina Carano is winning so far in her battle against the Walt Disney Company. And we were finally able to sit down with our buddy Ron Coleman from the Coleman Nation podcast to give his legal opinion on things. But you know, not everybody may be so thrilled about Gina Carano's position right now in this court case and perhaps her specter of coming out victorious. And yeah, you guessed it, you can have folks out there like Paul Tassi at Forbes magazine who, if you kind of read between the lines a little bit, maybe is none too happy that Gina's, winning.
Renegade Online.
And to that point, it's a great segue to this, because this was another article that happened Friday from our friend Paul Tassi at Forbes magazine, who we love to talk about here. We love you, Paul. But Paul says Gina Carano is one step closer to forcing Disney to put her back in The Mandalorian. And I suspect that Paul's attitude towards writing this headline is a bit... Imagine him doing a scour as he says this. Gina Carano is one step closer to forcing Disney to put her back in The Mandalorian. Damn it. You know, that's kind of Paul for you right there. Paul loved The Acolyte, thought The Acolyte was one of the most amazing shows, and I'm not exaggerating, one of the most amazing shows that Disney Star Wars has ever produced. Of course, you have other people at Forbes that have their heads screwed on a little bit tighter, like Eric Klein, and by a little bit, I mean completely. But Eric Kane out there at Forbes magazine. So, yeah. But this was Paul's reaction to this, and I kind of found this entertaining. It may have initially seemed like a reach of a lawsuit for Gina, but the Elon Musk-backed free speech, quote-unquote, case of Gina Carano versus Disney is not exactly going away, and things keep breaking in the actress's favor. And he goes through some of the story here about when she was let go from Disney, talking about all of her social media comments, her quote-unquote anti-trans rhetoric, her quote-unquote anti-Semitic tweets or whatever. But now a court has denied a motion to allow Disney to stall the case. And I give Paul credit here. I think he's absolutely right. I think that's exactly what Disney was trying to do. Stall, delay, whatever they could. Having their previous motion for dismissal denied, this time the court has said that Disney cannot have a stay of proceedings. In short, this is heading to trial, albeit not until September of next year. Unable to get the case dismissed out of hand, Disney has been pushing back in other ways, though none appear to be working. This is not necessarily indicative that they would lose the case itself, but that their initial tactics here are not panning out. And they go through Gina's tweet here, what she posted on X. It says, well, at the end of it, he says, Carano is seeking damages as a result of the situation, but most surprisingly is looking for an injunction that would allow her to return to her job, forcing Disney to rehire her to play Cara Dune in The Mandalorian, where she had a supporting role. Before all this, she was also on the verge of getting her own spinoff, it seemed. This, of course, seems like the most absurd part of the case. I don't know why that's entirely absurd, but okay. As Carano forcibly getting Disney to rehire her would result in what exactly? What are the rules for something like that? Could they hire her back and have her fall into a Sarlacc pit in the first few minutes of her appearance? Paul Tassi probably hopes so. Would she mandate her amount of screen time via the injunction? That seems almost impossible to consider. And it's not even clear that The Mandalorian is coming back for another season after the upcoming movie that's slated to release in 26, which Disney has indicated that that's it. The Mandoverse is done after that, which is probably a good idea considering how badly it went in season 3, and I suspect how not so great the Mando and Grogu movie is going to perform, or perhaps not perform, as it were, when it comes out. But legally, it's anyone's guess as to what actually happens here, but the courts are taking this seriously, Paul says, and it's going to trial within the year. It should be interesting if nothing else, but it would be something of a miracle if somehow we actually saw Cara Dune on screen again. So, I mean, look, I guess part of me didn't realize until I saw this article earlier that was actually part of the suit. I mean, I really question whether she would go back at this point, but hey, put it in there, right? Why not? I don't know how serious of a contingency that would be for a settlement here. But like you mentioned before, last that I had the conversation at the Nashville event, whenever it was, about a month or two ago, Gina seemed pretty resolute in her taking this all the way through, right? She was going to go all the way through with this. She wasn't backing down. She did not seem interested in a settlement. And again, it's not like Gina and her family are hurting for money. They're fine. Daddy is a Las Vegas casino magnate, and they're fine. But that being said, is this really going to help her specter for the future of her potential acting roles in Hollywood as it stands today? No, probably not. Let's be honest. She's going to get blacklisted, as she's already been blacklisted, like a lot of other actors and actresses that have her political mindset that goes against the grain, that doesn't want to play in the cesspool that is the Hollywood left elite. But I think making a statement here is going to go a long way, and I think we're going to have an interesting year. I don't know. What do you think, Ron? I mean, how much news usually comes out during we're in this intermediary period now between, no, this is proceeding, but it's a year away, right? I can't imagine there's going to be a whole lot that would be made public unless it goes to trial. Am I right?
That's basically right. There isn't much that should be coming out. There will be I'm sure there probably already is.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure there probably already is a protective order.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as if a case like this would have a real reason to be handled under seal. There's not a lot. I mean, the stuff having to do with the claims here don't really involve a lot of industry trade secrets. There might be some stuff that's designated as confidential that comes out during discovery may be filed under seal. Let's get one thing straight. In discovery, the parties propound discovery requests without involving the court. And they respond to them without involving the court. And then we wake up. Why was that a dream? That's a dream because there are inevitably disputes as to whether your discovery request is overly broad, whether it is appropriate, whether it involves privileged communications. These discovery disputes are resolved by the judge or by a magistrate judge who reports to the Article 3 judge, Judge Garnett. In the case of discovery disputes, the parties will very frequently submit the disputed discovery requests and responses, and perhaps even documents that may or may not be redacted according to how the material comes out. But for the foreseeable, and it is possible to read tea leaves based on the discovery disputes and based on other motions that might come up between now and the summary judgment stage. And remember, by the way, that the judge issued an order requiring that this case be mediated before there's any trial.
Yeah.
And remember what I also said, which was that that there will not be any mediation until the discovery takes place, because Gina doesn't know what her case is worth, and Disney doesn't know what its case is worth until everyone shows his hand.
Right.
So it is possible that there will be a mediated settlement after discovery is exchanged. It is possible there'll be a summary judgment, although I think it's unlikely that there will be a summary judgment, but it is a virtual certainty that there will be at least one summary judgment motion, which will be brought by Disney.
I would think so, yeah.
And since Gina is playing with house money here, she will probably respond to it with a cross motion for summary judgment, even though it's really unlikely, unless, of course, there's just absolute gobsmackingly smoking gun type stuff that's exchanged and becomes, part of the record.
But you go through the motions, right? These are kind of one of these things that you're going to do anyway because, hey, this is an available avenue. We might as well, take a swing at it, even if it's for the fences and we whiff.
Well, in high stakes litigation, and here it is high stakes, even though it's not financially high stakes, and it really isn't. I'm hard pressed to really see a meaningful way in which this is truly a financially high stakes litigation. But
I would agree, but I think that's why she's doing it, because it's not about that, right? This is more about making a statement and forcing Disney's hand to where, like she said, when we were there in Nashville and, drunk 3PO's out there in the audience sitting right next to me when this happened, and I asked her, how she would press this, and I don't plan to back down. Paraphrasing, that's what she said, right? And we've talked about this. If it was about, I don't think it has anything to do with money for her. This is about having, somebody's going to stand up to somebody like Disney and make them realize that you are not invincible and you can't keep doing this, right?
And I'll also go back to something else you said. Will she ever work in this town again? Probably not. Probably not. You can't make people hire you once you're identified as a problem. And this goes back to Kurt Flood. And in Hollywood, it goes back to other, people who buck to the studios. Meaning that she's not only trying to vindicate some lofty principle here. This is a woman scorned. Yes, she doesn't need the money. Yes, she's well off. It's, it's not like us who might say, hey, this was my chance for fame and fortune, and now I've got to go back to sweeping floors. She was going to maybe be a movie star. She was going to, maybe work in the industry for a long time. And Disney probably made it impossible. Now, it might be that there'll be some kind of reshuffling of studios, and maybe some alternative creator will come up and want to use her. But the point is, her career has been seriously derailed by what happened here.
Sure.
And she's got lots of vindication on her agenda.
Yeah, so it seems. So it seems for sure. But it'll be interesting to watch how this proceeds on as we go through it.
Make sure you're subscribed to Valiant Renegade and join us every Sunday at 6 p.m. Eastern for the live show.